Hi and welcome here. So today's video is a little bit more practical on anxiety, but I'm going to share with you a practice that I use to manage my own anxiety, because I've had anxiety creeping up a lot in the last week. It's a very specific version of anxiety, if there is such a thing as versions, but it was that fear that stopped me in tracks while I was busy doing something. You forgot something really important, right? And you're thinking, what is it, that important thing that I forgot? And you don't know. And it kept happening day after day, right? It really gripped me. And anxiety is an emotion that most of us don't really like so much. You know, it's an uncomfortable sensation, right? I don't know. How do you describe? How do you know when you feel anxious? How do you know? What sensations in your body do you have? For many of us, it's really difficult to actually identify emotions and describe them. So for a lot of people, it's like a twisting in the stomach kind of sensation. Or for me, it's like butterflies, or it always feels like this tingling, and you might be shaky or sweating, the racing thoughts. There's all sorts of different ways anxiety can show up in our body. Perhaps share in the comments below too. So if you know, if you're good with words and if you can describe the anxiety, this will be really helpful for others out there who are still struggling putting the emotions and feelings into words. Right? That was really difficult for myself. So for me, it's a really tingling, kind of restless kind of sensation, right? And because it feels uncomfortable, it's not one that we kind of desire or like. We have a tendency to try to push it away or get rid of it, right? Which we'll talk about too, what that is. And not only do we that, we often also make it mean things, right? When anxiety shows up for me, I used to make it mean that I don't do the healing stuff properly. If I would only do the practices and things my therapist and stuff taught me, if I would do this properly, then this wouldn't be an issue. I wouldn't have this anxiety, right? We ever had thoughts like this, right? We make it mean all sorts of things about ourselves when anxiety shows up. So the practice that I am doing and I've been using for many years, and it is a practice that requires a little bit of skill, right? I just want to put that out there. And I like to call it sit with it. Right. And I know, what does that mean? Sit with it. Are you serious? I don't want to sit with this uncomfortable and crazy feeling. And no, neither do I. But the more we fight it, the more we try to get rid of it, the more stronger it gets. So when I do the practice, my intention is never to get rid of the anxiety, that emotion. I know, you might not like that idea, but follow me through to the end, and then you might understand why. But this is really key. We don't want to get rid of it. We want to get curious, right? What is that sensation in my body, and where is it? Where in my body does it show up the strongest? Is it pulsing? Is it tingling? Is it moving? Is it staying still? Is it dull? Become really curious and try to be as neutral as you can, right? Almost like a researcher type of mindset. I've worked in medical research for a couple of decades, so putting my researcher hat back on and just being really curious. Like, I've never had that experience of anxiety before, right? Never had that sensation. So really becoming aware of where in the body and just allowing that to be, and reminding myself that this container, because sometimes for me anxiety feels like it's too, the space is too small and the anxiety is too big, if that makes sense. So I try to imagine that the anxiety can go beyond my body. There's heaps of space for anxiety. It can just be there. And I almost like to think of anxiety that to sit with me, next to me. I invite anxiety to stay here and just sit with me. And I'm that little bit of distance, and just in my mind playfully thinking like I'm having a cup of tea or coffee with anxiety. So I'm trying to get really curious about why anxiety showed up again. And I ask, do you have a message for me? And when we get really present in the moment, really grounded in that moment, it's hard when that that heart is racing, right? It's hard to stay with that sensation. Remind myself it's nothing dangerous is going to happen. Orient myself again, looking around the room. Okay, here are the things. I love this picture of the tiger, pointing at, looking at the view, grounding myself right here, right now. There's actually nothing life-threatening happening. And tell my amygdala it's a false alarm. Yes, I'm kind of safe. There's anxiety there, but there's a different reason for that, right? And I really want to know, why did it show up? What is the message for me that anxiety has, right? And I'm going to share with you, in my case, that anxiety that kept coming up, that I forgot something really important, which meant, in my case, that I was sliding back into the rushing mode. If you followed me for a little while, in 2019 I had a real breakdown. My body really said no. Because I was pushing, I was forcing, I was finishing my PhD in internal medicine, and I was working, I was doing so many things. Oh, I loved it. I've got a workaholism, keeping my mind really, really busy. That was one of my coping mechanisms. And I did not listen to my body. My body kept bringing up anxiety and messages for me to, hey, slow down. And I kept pushing and pushing. So now there's almost that fear there when I go back into this pushing mode or that rushing mode that my health might collapse again. But my life is nothing like it was back then. I have so much ease, I have so much flow, I have so much peace. It's beautiful, right? But there was that little rushing, there was that little urge that it was there again. So, but when I was sitting with anxiety and really paying attention to it, which I didn't in the first few days, it showed up. It was an inconvenience. It's like, I don't really want to deal with this right now. I'm too busy, right? It's not that bad. And I just kind of tried to push it away. But our body keeps nudging us. It keeps coming up with messages, right? And like before 2019, I wasn't listening to those little nudges, those little discomforts of butterflies in my stomach that's signaling me that something's off, right? Anxiety is often a safety, to protect ourselves when something's off, when a person violates our boundaries and things like that. It can show up then, right? So I wasn't listening. So our body brings stronger and stronger signals, right? It was like I wasn't being able to sleep so well, and then I was getting migraines, and eventually I started having vertigo. So it got louder and louder to really give me the message, hey, slow down. All right, and this is what anxiety most of the time is for me when it shows up. For you, it might be something different, and I'm really curious. Please share that below for all of us, so we can learn from each other by reading through the comments, and because sometimes it might feel a bit mysterious to you, and it's like, I'm really lost. I don't know why it is showing up. I can't hear the message, right? Because you might be at a phase on your healing journey where it is still very difficult for you to actually just sit there and feeling really grounded within yourself and allowing yourself to pause and realize that it's okay, I can sit with anxiety. It feels uncomfortable, but I can stay there without going all frantically and more panicky to a full-blown panic attack, right? And I have been there, I've done it. So that's what I'm saying, it's a journey. This kind of practice is a skill that over time we get better and better at it. So when we're using that skill, when little nudges of anxious kind of thoughts or worrying shows up, when we're using it then when the more intense version of our anxiety, the panicky kind of state show up, we might actually be able to detect the sensations early enough to prevent it to go to the panic state, or we are so used to using that tool that we can almost do it on autopilot, so we can still use it in those really critical situations. I hope that makes sense. But one more thing that I really want to point out is that when that anxiety showed up for me, that I forgot something really important, it didn't show up in moments where I was rushing. So, because my life isn't full of rushing. I have I'm very intentional about how I set up my life these days. So I go for lots of walks in nature because I love it. It's so grounding, so soothing, so nourishing to me, right? This is beautiful. So it actually happened when I was out on a walk. And there's this serene, beautiful landscape, and I'm getting that panic, that anxiety feeling. So sometimes the anxiety doesn't come up when we're doing something related to the message. just wanted to flag that too. So we want to be really open and curious. And I can do this kind of visualizing, imagining myself sitting with anxiety. Other people prefer to actually journal about this, and you can use your left and right hand if you want to have a conversation and things like that, or they just randomly draw, and whatever comes up in a picture they might actually be able to identify what the message is. So we're all a bit unique there. So I'm curious again, please share what your practices and skills and tools is that help you manage your anxiety. So this is really key here. We're not trying to get rid of it. We actually welcome it and say, hey, thank you for being here. I know you have a message for me. I'm ready. I'm listening. I'm here. Because I know I can handle it now, right? I'm in an adult body now. I know I have different tools. We'll save that for different videos to help myself to soothe and care and have that compassion and befriend myself, right? Actually, at the time of recording this, the theme of the month, I have a different theme each month, is befriending myself. So that's my theme for the month, and I do workshops for the Thrive community because they're doing the same themes to really, because I just love walking with other people on this journey together. So perhaps you have a buddy too. It doesn't have to be the Thrive community. Maybe you have a group too that you can walk on this journey together, and you can create tools together for the group of you to make this a little bit easier and more fun and more playful, more motivating and inspiring, and all the good stuff, right? All those things that we have missed out on for so long in our life, but we can have that now in our adult life, right? To really allow ourselves to have those other feelings as well. It doesn't take them away, but I want to have a mixture of all of them. Yes, I had a little bit of anxiety, but I also had a little bit of joy. I had a lot of fun. I felt inspired, right? I felt bliss and peace and all these good things there as well. So I hope this practice helps. Let me know how you go with that and in implementing and trying it out. Not when you have a full-blown panic attack, try it out when you have a little bit of this anxious kind of feeling, this worrying coming up in you. Really feeling into your body. Where is it? Getting curious. Getting really curious, allowing it to be there. We don't have to like it, we don't have to be best buddies, but we're respectful and we're making space for it to be here, right? And really listening in, what is the message there for you? So, thank you for being here, and as always, I'm sending you lots and lots of love and rainbows to brighten up the tough times just a little. See ya, bye!